Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel where we make learning Python simple and fun. If you are new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Today we are continuing our Python series, and in this episode we are diving into one of the most important topics, which is nothing but functions. Functions are like little machines in your code that helps you organize, reuse, and simplify your programs. So you don't have to write the same code over and over again. By the end of this video, you will understand how to define your own functions, pass values into them, return results, and even call functions inside other functions, all in a clean and easy to understand way. I do understand at this particular point of time, it feels like complex. Well, we will be making it very simple. So grab your Python editor and let's jump right in. So let me go back to my Visual Studio Code, and here let's pick a simplest example to calculate compound stress over time. Okay. So for that, let's first create our file interest.py file got created. Now, um, to calculate the interest, we have to have the principal. Okay. In my case, I'm saying the principal is $1,000. And then we require the rate. Rate is going to be a 6%. Now I need a time. So time I am giving it as 3 years. Okay. Now this we have given. After this, let's declare the formula. So formula is nothing but amount equal to principal. Oh, there's a typo. Principal into 1 plus rate divided by 100 time. This is like the amount, and to calculate the compound interest, it should be amount minus principal. Okay, principal. Yeah, principal. Oh, I again made a mistake. Sorry. Principal, it's the principal here again. So now we got this. Now we have the values, we have the formula. Now if I print the compound interest, I will be easily able to calculate the compound interest. Let me clear my window. Now let me rerun this program. So you will see after running this program, I got 191 dot this. So let me make it beautify compound interest equal to this. Okay. So now it will tell us the compound interest in a good way. So compound interest equal to this. So we are easily able to create the compound interest. Now one user, one more user comes and say, please calculate interest for me also. For principal as 1200, interest rate is 8, and the time is going to be 5 years. Okay. Now we will be able to calculate very easily because we have the formula ready and everything is written here. So now the compound interest is 563.19 dollars. Correct. Now this is fine. Like one more user came. Now what if 10 more user comes and say, please calculate the interest for us too? Oops. Now it will be difficult to calculate and copy paste this code multiple times and rename the variables to calculate the interest for every user. It's an overhead for sure. And we may also make some mistake too while copy pasting and renaming the variables. This means we need some way where we can reuse code statement to calculate interest for every user without copy paste and duplicate code. To overcome this issue, we have functions. in Python, which helps us to reuse the code. Let's first try to understand what function is, its syntax, and key points to consider while creating functions. Okay, so we will go back to our slides and we'll see functions. Okay, so for to create a function, we use a special keyword which called as def, def, which got highlighted as a dark pink. Okay, right after def, we give our custom function name. We want something meaningful to describe it, what it does. Okay, so suppose if I want to add two numbers, I will give def add. Or if I want to create, um, create a calculate the interest, so I would say def calculate underscore interest. Okay, or I can say like def compound underscore interest. So it will tell us like we are going to create an interest and we can write our definition inside this particular function. Then inside the function, we write the actual set of instructions or logic that we want the function to perform. Okay, this is the syntax of a function. Now we have two type of functions: functions without return statement, function with return statement. So first we talk about the functions with return statement. Sorry, without return statement. So here you can see I have given a special keyword, the reserved keyword from Python as a def, and I have given a print underscore message. Okay, and here I am doing something and printing the message. Okay, so this is like a one level up, but I will go back to my Visual Studio Code, and here what we can do, I can create a file message.py, and it can be any name, any custom name. Here I'm saying def message. Okay, and here I am printing hello world. Okay, hello world. Now I can call this particular function this way. Okay, now I created a function with the reserved keyword def. I gave the function name as message, and I have given the print statement as hello. Okay, all right. So now let me print this and get the output. I printed it. I got the output. I called a function. So this is nothing but a function calling. So whatever function I have created, I'm calling this function from here. Okay, if I don't have this particular line here, and if I try to run the code, nothing will happen because we declared a function, but we didn't use it. So to use this particular function, we wrote a function name and we have given the bracket. If we don't give the bracket, it will start giving the error. It will not be able to understand what this message we talked about. Okay, so to call this particular function, you just give the bracket. Okay, now as soon as you give the bracket, it will call and it will print the hello world. Now this is one way where we can call this particular function. So all right, so now that we understand how to create function, use the def keyword, let's talk about something really important, the return type in a function. Whenever we write a function, it can do two things: perform some action like printing or saving data, or write some business logic, or give or return something back. That's what we call a return value. This return value allows us to take further actions. For example, let's say after saving some data in a database, I want to know whether it was successfully saved or not. That's where the return statement comes handy. We can make our function return something like saved successfully or failed to save. This helps us to get a clear response from the function instead of just performing the action silently. In Python, we use the return as a keyword to send data or result back from the function to where it was called. Let's change function to return message. Okay. So here what I'm going to do is, in place of printing here itself, I am returning it. Okay. So this means if I'm returning it and if I'm running this particular function, I won't be getting any error and nothing will get printed because we are not printing anything using a print statement. We have just returned. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write message equal to message. Okay. And then I'm going to write print msg. Okay. Now if I run, I can see like the hello world got printed. Why? Because we call this function returned hello world. So this hello world got assigned to this particular message keyword, and the same message keyword we have printed using the print method, which is given by Python. Okay, this is like how the return thing works. Now let's consider we wish to calculate the sum of two numbers. Okay, and return that particular number after the sum. So let me go ahead and remove this and define one more function, def sum, or I would say def add. Okay. Now here, let's define a equal to 10, b equal to 20. Okay. Now return a plus b. Okay. Now what we are doing here, we are returning the sum of two numbers, a and b. And the same I'm going to do here. I'm going to call this particular function and printing the output. So as soon as I run my code, it says 30. So the sum of 10 and 20 is 30. Okay. Now, after that, I wish to find out the sum of 15 and 25. So I will go ahead and update the number 15 and 25. I can see the sum is now totally 40. Okay. Now, at the same time, if I was to find out the sum of different combinations like 10 plus 10, 20 plus 30, or 70 plus 80, this means I have to make a change in the function and calculate the sum. It's a tedious job, correct? Within the function, I will making a change and finding out the sum. For that, what if we send a value of a and b while calling function? Which means when I'm calling a function, if I pass something from here to this function, and the job of this function is just to calculate and return that particular sum to me. Okay. Now, to make sure one function's flexible and reusable, we don't want hardcode values inside them every time, right? So for that, we use function parameters. These are like placeholders that allow our function to accept dynamic values when it's called. Think of parameters as little input boxes for your functions. You can send different data each time and your function will work accordingly. How? So for example, this A and B I have defined here. So I will remove this A and B from here and I will pass this A and B as a function parameter. Okay. Now, because you see this particular syntax add and it is expecting A and B as a function parameter. So when I'm calling this particular function, I have to pass two different integers. Okay. So as soon as I pass two different integers, I can see I got the sum. Now I can change any value. I can get the sum, which means I can get the sum from the same function for different combinations. So 10 plus 20, 10 plus 25, or I would say 17 plus 10. Now if I run this, I'm able to get the sum of each and every combinations, and I do not need to change the function again and again. I do understand here we are seeing only one line of code which is calculating the sum. But suppose if we have some business logic inside a function where we are running like where we have wrote multiple business logics to calculate a number and find out the final result. Okay. In that case, if we go ahead and make the change in the function, it will be a tedious job. So in place of that, just create those variables, pass those variables and parameters. Those parameters will take care about those calculation, and at the end of the day, we will be able to get our results. Yep. So this was the simplest way where we can use the function and calculate the sum very easily. Now, Here we are able to reuse some method multiple times to gather some of different combinations. Let's get back to our earlier problem where we were finding out sum. Okay, so let's get to our interest.py where we were trying to calculate the compound interest. Now for this also what we can do is we can simply create a function def and we can say calculate interest. Okay, now we have this. Now I will indent it or else it will give us an error. Now after indentation we are able to create, we are able to get the amount and at the same time we are able to get the interest. Okay, now we can see here the amount is a principal is a variable. Okay, where we are expecting a principal from user, we are expecting a rate from user, and we are expecting the time from user. Okay, so these are the variables which I'm accepting from the end user, and I wish to return the compound interest. So I can say return compound interest. Okay, now here after calculation, I'm returning the compound interest. I can go back wherever I'm calling the compound interest. Now here, I can easily call out the principal, call out the compound interest having the principal, then the rate, and then the number of years. Okay. Now this should be a function name here. Calculate interest. Calculate interest. Calculate interest is expecting three parameters: principal, rate, and time. Principal, rate, and time we have passed. Okay. Now we don't require these variables because now we are passing things at the right time of function calling. Okay. Now if I run my code, I should be able to get my compound interest very easily. Now, if we have 100 users also, okay, and they are saying like I have, 1500 and I have a rate of interest of 4 and then this is for 20 years. Okay. I should be able to calculate. This is like $1786. Now, similar to this, whenever we will call this particular function passing these values, it will allow us to calculate the complete compound interest and return result. Yep. So here's the golden rule of programming. Don't dump everything inside one giant function. Okay. So for example, here I have created the compound interest. And after the compound interest, I wish to save this particular value to a database. And after saving into the database, I wish to make some more calculation and return that value. No, every function should have its own purpose. So which means when you are starting out, it's attempting to write one long function that does everything: calculation, printing, saving, validating, logging. But that makes your code messy, hard to debug, and almost impossible to reuse later. So the best practice is always to create a separate function for separate tasks, each with a clear purpose, and it's one of the core ideas behind functions and clean code. Okay, we can call function inside a function. So what I'm trying to say here is, let me go ahead and remove everything and let me create a function again. So I say dev um, greet user. Okay, then say print hello. Okay, I will create one more function dev start program. Okay, this is one more function, and inside this function I'm printing thank you, thank you, and let me print the start also here. Okay, start. Okay, now we have two functions. One function is a start program and another function is the greet user. Okay, so what we gonna do is we gonna call greet user function from the start program. So we will say greet user here with the with the braces. Okay, so which means we are calling a greet user function from start program function. Okay, so let me go ahead and call this start program function from here. Now we can guess what the result is going to be, which means as soon as the call gets triggered, it will look for the start program. It will go to the start program. Then in the first line, it is written start. It will put in the start. Then it will see the greet user. It will go to the greet user function and then it will print hello there. Okay. Once it prints hello, it will go back to that line. Okay. After this line, we have written thank you. Then it will print thank you. Let me go ahead and run this particular piece of code. Now we can clearly see what we discussed. It is printing start, then hello, and then it is printing thank you. Okay. So there are some so this is like all about the functions, parameter, return types, okay, and the calling of functions from one of the other function. Okay. But while defining this function, okay, so we have write def keyword and then we have given the function name and we have a return type. For all these things, we always follow the best practices. Okay, and what those best practices are, whenever you are defining a function, okay, always use lowercase letters for function. Okay, like add, then bracket, sum, message, always small. Don't say A capital or D capital. No. Use snake case for multi-word variables. For example, interest underscore rate, total underscore amount with the bracket. Okay. Now avoid using reserve keyword. You cannot say class then opening and closing braces. It will give you an error because these are like the reserve keyword from Python, and we cannot use these keyword to give the class name or the function name anything. This is not what we can use for custom. Yep. Now, apart from this, there are numbers. Numbers are allowed in a function name, but not at the start. It should be in between or at the last. Okay. Now, keep names short but clear. Okay. So as you know, we have just calculated the interest, and while creating an interest, we have given the name as calculate underscore interest. Okay. So that user, like the developer easily can understand what this function is doing. Okay. What is the purpose of this function? So which means this function is to calculate the interest. Now, for example, if someone have given calculate underscore sum, okay, but inside that particular function, if you're calculating the interest, but the name says calculate sum, which is not making sense. So this means we have to keep name short and clear to the developer so that they can understand. Okay. Now, at the end, I wish to call out one important point around function and method, which no one will tell you. So a function is something you define outside of class. So if I go back to my code, here I did not define any class and I'm using functions. Okay, this kind of syntax. So this we will call it functions. But if the same thing I'm going to write inside a class, then it will get called as methods. That's it for the today's video on the functions. I hope you got the complete end-to-end clarity. What functions it, how it works, what is the return type, parameters. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I will be coming up with more videos on Python and AI. Thank you very much.